Welcome to Transformational Healing Summit, where we explore how to unleash your inner power, shift the mindset, and transform your health. My name is Alexandra Babayan, and I'm a host of this summit. I would like to introduce today's speaker, Hal Elrod. After surviving multiple near-death experiences and impacting millions of lives through his books, Hal is on a mission to elevate the consciousness of humanity, one person at a time. As the author of The Miracle Morning, which has sold over 2 million copies, and his newest book, The Miracle Equation, he is doing exactly that. Personally, I can say that Hal definitely transformed my life and changed the way how I approach the mornings. Thank you so much. I'm really grateful to have you on this summit.
Alexander, it really is an honor. Thank you so much for having me. And I'm so grateful to hear that the Miracle Morning made it such a positive impact for you. That's really, really special.
Yes, thank you. And, you know, I would like to talk a little bit about your life. I know that you had two near-death experiences, and you know, it's something that I want to discuss, and maybe you can tell us your story and what you learned after that experience.
Absolutely. When I was 20 years old, I was giving a speech for my company at a conference, and that night driving home, my car was hit head on by a drunk driver on the freeway at 70 miles per hour, 70 to 80 miles per hour. And the worst was yet to come. When I hit the drunk driver head on, my car bounced off the drunk driver. The car behind me crashed into my door at 70 miles an hour. And I left my driver's side door. So I broke the whole left side of my body was smashed. I broke 11 bones, suffered permanent brain damage, punctured a lung, ruptured my spleen, and began bleeding to death. And that night I actually was found dead at the scene. My heart stopped beating for approximately 6 minutes. And I was rushed, airlifted to the hospital, revived on the helicopter, and spent 6 days in a coma, came out of a coma to the news that I would never walk again. And I just had a mindset that I'm going to walk again. I'm going to walk again. I maintained faith in that possibility while I simultaneously accepted that I might not walk again. So it was an interesting balance, and maybe we'll talk more about that today, but where you can actually expect the best and you can have faith that the best outcome is possible, while you also understand that just because we have faith doesn't mean things are going to turn out the way that we always want them to, right? In fact, maybe they're supposed to turn out the opposite way because that's what destiny has for us, whatever. But the point is that for me, it was like, if I'm in a wheelchair the rest of my life, I told this to the doctors, to my parents, I said, I'll be the happiest person you've ever seen in a wheelchair. I said, because either way, I'm not going to let my circumstances define my quality of life. So I have unwavering faith that I can walk again, but I might be wrong. And if I never walk again, that's okay. Like either way, the outcome is going to be me being happy and grateful for whatever life ends up, giving to me. And so that was the first experience. I took my first step 3 weeks after the crash. The doctors couldn't believe it. And then 3 years ago, so this was 20 years ago, the car accident happened. 3 years ago, I stopped being able to breathe. I was having trouble breathing, and ended up being diagnosed within a few days of a very rare aggressive form of cancer. And I was close to death. My heart was surrounded by a sack of fluid. I had hours, they said, before I was, going to die. They had to rush me in for emergency procedure to puncture this fluid sac around my heart and drain the fluid. And I had to sign a release that said if they punctured my heart and I died, I couldn't sue the hospital, right? It was pretty scary. And I was given a very rare diagnosis of a very aggressive cancer, acute lymphoblastic leukemia, which has a 10 to 30% survival rate. So if you're a pessimist, right, that's a 70 to 90% chance I was being told I was going to die. And I had the same mindset. I thought, I have unwavering faith that I can, I even told my wife, who was so scared, I said, sweetie, if there's a 10 to 30% chance that people survive this, in my mind, there's a 100% chance that I will be in the 10 to 30%, right? And I think that we look at a statistic and we think that becomes our fate, but no, look at the positive side of the statistic and decide that that's your fate, right? That you're going to end up in that realm. And so I said, I will be the happiest and the most grateful that I've ever been while I endure the most difficult time in my life. And Now, not only does that help you to actually deal with your challenges with more ease and grace and peace of mind, but there's also a lot of science now that shows, right, that when we feel good, our immune system it thrives, right? When we feel stress or fear, right, we release cortisol and it's damaging to our immune system. So that was probably part of the correlation, but the doctors, once again, they couldn't believe how fast I kind of overcame the cancer. And what did the most damage, I think, was not the cancer. It was the chemotherapy. I did 3 years of chemo. It took a horrific toll on my mind, body, and everything else. But yeah, so I was able to beat cancer and the car accident with kind of the mindset that I had.
Yeah, that's crazy. I feel like your life itself is a miracle. And the way how you survived and you go through it. And before we will go deeper to fear, I have a lot of questions to ask. Can you define the miracle? What's mean to you a miracle?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. It's a loaded word. And I have my friends joke. They're like, well, you're qualified to talk about miracles because you died and came back. They're like, I think that counts. I'm like, all right, cool. But for me, a miracle is viewed by most people as a very unreliable thing, right? It's like, miracles happened back in the day, or if a miracle happens, it's somebody might take it a religious or spiritual standpoint, like, oh, that's God's will. Or if a miracle happens, it's luck, right? Most people don't feel like they have any control or influence over whether a miracle happens. And so for me, I like to define it in a way that's very realistic for anyone to create it. And so the way I define a miracle is any result, or you could use the word outcome, any result or any outcome that is outside the realm of what you currently believe is probable for you. So any result outside the realm of what you currently believe is probable for you. Therefore, when you achieve that result, it feels like a miracle, right? It's like, oh my gosh, I set this huge goal. I had this dream. I really didn't believe that I could do it. I didn't know, but I followed this miracle equation, right? That the formula, this was for me. Like, I didn't know I could achieve these things that I've achieved in terms of the Miracle Morning, the book and all of that. But it was following that formula, which we'll probably talk more about. But the idea that a miracle is you achieve this result that is so far beyond what you really knew you could do that it feels like a miracle. And if you look at anyone in the world who has achieved greatness in any way, it's typically they did something they've never done before, right? And so for everybody, there's self-doubt that gets in the way, there's fear that gets in the way, there's inertia that holds you back, right? All of these things you have to override, and that's what I've tried to teach people to do.
Yeah, and this is exactly the next question that I have. I feel like fear is our predominant emotion. We have fear because it helped us to survive, right?
Yeah.
If we're
Yeah.
dangerous, then. But in other times, this fear can actually affect us in a wrong way, where, for example, will be self-doubt. What if I not be able to do it, and all that. And especially with the experience that you had with the cancer, right? I can imagine that the fear was so huge. So how did you overcome it? How you managed your mind?
So for me, it's all right. So I'll mention this concept that my new book is called The Miracle Equation. Mm-hmm. And the miracle equation is something I started practicing when I was 20 years old. So I'm 40 now. So it's been 20 years. And I used it initially in business. It was, how do I achieve these amazing results that are beyond the realm of what I believe to be probable for me? And I ended up breaking all these records in our company using this formula. When I was diagnosed with cancer and given such a rare or such a slim chance of surviving, 10 to 30% chance of surviving, I immediately, like I think anybody would, is you go, how am I going to beat this? I've got to beat this, especially I have kids. So it's like, I have to beat this, not just for me, I've got to beat it for them. Like, they can't grow up without a dad. Like, I've got to do this. And so I thought, how am I going to do this? And the miracle equation is this way of being, this strategy that I had applied throughout my life to walk again after my car accident, and then to, to have success in business. And I thought, that's it. I'm going to use the miracle equation to create this miracle, this seemingly impossible result that the doctors are telling me is not very likely, but I'm going to accomplish it. And so the miracle equation is made up of two really straightforward, simple decisions that when you make these decisions over and over and over again, this is how, in fact, if you study the world's most successful people, these are the two decisions that they make over and over and over and over again that enable them to overcome their fear and keep moving forward to achieve results that are beyond what they at once thought were possible. So the first decision is to establish unwavering faith. And unwavering faith is how you override fear, or at least it's how I override fear, right? So when I say faith, you can derive your faith in a lot of ways. It could be from a higher power, right? For me, I usually speak in more practical terms, in terms of faith in yourself, faith in your ability and your willingness to commit to do whatever it takes for as long as it takes to achieve the result that you want. Now, if you can combine that with fear or with faith in a higher power, right? That's great. You're using the best of both worlds. But for me, I used a very clear statement. I call this my miracle mantra. And I used this back when I was using the miracle equation in business. I would have a mantra that would say, I am committed to give it everything I have to achieve blank, right? To break this record, to do, it was back when I was in sales. No matter what, there is no other option. And I applied that. And so I created a statement that said, I am committed to beating cancer and living to be 100 plus years old alongside my wife and our daughter, Sophie, and our son, Halston. No matter what, there is no other option. And that statement, that I call that the miracle mantra, that is how you establish and then reinforce unwavering faith. It's not a one-time thing. So for me, every day that I woke up, I would have fear, usually rush, like I would feel fear. Right? At either first thing or at some point, as soon as I came to and remembered, oh, wait a minute, that wasn't a nightmare. I have cancer. Crap. Like I've got chemo today. Oh my gosh, this is real. No, it was scary. It was terrifying. And, and there were times where I was in the ER at, 2:00 in the morning with infections where my fever was 104 degrees and I was, on death's doorway again and again and again. And I had this miracle mantra. It was on my phone, which was always with me, of course. And every time I felt fear, what if I die? What if I don't make it through this week? What if this is the time? What if, right? I would pull out my phone, and eventually I memorized that I didn't need the phone. But I said, I take a deep breath and I'd say, I am committed to giving it everything I have to beat cancer and live to be 100 plus years old alongside my wife and our kids. No matter what, there is no other option. And I said it with conviction over and over and over and over again. And I know it's not rocket science, but it's effective. That's how you trump fear, is you have to have a statement, a belief of faith, rooted in faith. And whenever you feel fear, you replace it with that unwavering faith. And so, it's kind of like an athlete. If they're about to, if they missed a few shots in a row, they might go, oh no, what if I miss this one? Well, that's going to affect their biology and they're more likely to miss. Their hand's going to shake when they shoot that ball, right? But if you replace that fear with what if I miss with, I got this, I'm going to make this. In fact, I'm going to make this shot no matter what, there's no other option. I have such conviction, such confidence, right? Now they have a steady hand when they release that ball. And so, for me, that's how I overrode fear, and it's how I still override fear, is utilizing that decision of faith.
Right. And what's the second decision? The first one is faith. And by the way, I just wanted to say, like, I have a feeling that you're from another planet, the way how you think and how you approach, it's just amazing.
I take that as that's like one of the I've never been told that. That's one of the nicest things I've ever heard. Thank you. So the second decision is extraordinary effort. And it's a little deceiving. In fact, I often say that these two decisions are deceptively simple in their explanation, because it's like, okay, so unwavering faith and extraordinary effort, but they're even more rare in their execution. So extraordinary effort is not what it sounds like. It sounds like, okay, so you're telling me that I need to work hard. Okay. Yeah, I knew that. Right. But like, no, what makes effort extraordinary is not that it's hard. It's not that it's long hours. It's not that you have to work 60 to 80 hours a week. What makes effort extraordinary in the context of creating these tangible, measurable miracles is consistency. It's that the effort's consistent. So most people, they will only put forth effort when it's new and they're excited, or when they're being held accountable, right? So what makes the effort extraordinary is when you sustain it over an extended period of time for as long as it takes to achieve the outcome. So consistency means if you do one thing every day to move yourself in the direction of a predetermined goal or dream or miracle, or what I call mission. I define it as a mission. It's the single most important outcome or result or goal or dream in your life at any given time. And your mission can change. Once you achieve one mission, you move on to another. But it's being clear as what's the single most important outcome that you're committed to. And that becomes your mission, or your miracle mission, if you will. And so if you do one thing every day that moves you in the direction of your mission, well, your success is inevitable. You eventually get there. It might take you longer than you initially planned. In fact, it almost always does, right? We're always overly optimistic to the point of delusion, going, I'm going to do this. Like, I'll give you a very tangible example. So not only did I walked again with this unwavering faith that I would walk again, and I put forth extraordinary effort by going into therapy every day, going in early, staying long, doing whatever it took, visualizing every day that I would walk again. And I took my first step 3 weeks after I was found dead, after the crash, right? And then the Miracle Morning, when that book came out, my dream was to my mission was to change 1 million lives one morning at a time, right? Which really meant to sell 1 million copies of the book, and so that people could change their life one morning at a time. And I set the arbitrary goal of 1 year because, 1 year is usually the time frame. So it was, all right, change 1 million lives one morning at a time in 1 year. And at the end of that, and by the way, during that year, I put forth extraordinary effort. I did a weekly podcast. So I did 52 episodes of my own podcast. I interviewed on over 150 other people's podcasts. I was on 13 television shows across the United States. I gave 36 speeches, right?
Wow.
I mean, you couldn't have done much more. And I sold not 1 million copies. I sold 17,000 copies. It was 13,000 or 17,000. And so if you do the math, I think that means I was 99.8% or 80, right? Like I was 99.8% short of my goal. But the thing with the miracle equation is it's maintaining unwavering faith and putting forth extraordinary effort for as long as it takes to reach your goal. Because when you finally get to the point you've been working so hard for so long, and I hope you take this as one of the biggest takeaways from this episode, because we're all impatient. We want to get where we want to get. We get discouraged when we're not seeing results as fast as we want. And the reality is this, that what was I going to say?
The consistency maybe, or
so unwavering faith and extraordinary effort over an extended period of time. When you finally get to the point in your life that you've been working so hard for so long, you almost never wish it would have happened any sooner. Like when you're going through it, it can't happen soon enough. But when you finally get there, you look back at your journey and you go, oh, it was supposed to take this long. I had to go through all those obstacles and setbacks and defeat, and I almost quit 3 times, and I was going through depression, all of it. Like it was all necessary for us to become the person that we need to be to finally achieve what we want in our life. And so for me, after 1 year, I was 99.7 or 8% short of my goal, but I knew that I could eventually get there if I continued to maintain unwavering faith and put forth extraordinary effort. So the next year I did even more interviews and more speeches, and I sold 23,000 copies, I think. So I was around 35, 40,000 copies after 2 years. So I'm still 99% short of my goal, right? I was 990,000, whatever, short. But I knew it was only a matter of time. And so I continued year after year after year. And it took 6 years, Alexandra. But after 6 years, we surpassed 1 million copies of the Miracle Morning sold. and had changed, I don't know if everybody read the book, so maybe we changed many, many lives, right? And like I said, when I got to that point, I didn't feel that anxiety anymore. I didn't feel like it wasn't happening soon enough. I looked back and I went, oh, it was supposed to take 6 years. And so I truly believe the subtitle of the Miracle Equation book is the 2 decisions that move your biggest goals from possible to probable to inevitable. And I really believe that when you establish unwavering faith and you reestablish it every single day, it's not a one-time decision. You make that decision every single day. And every single day you follow through with putting forth extraordinary effort. And in the book, of course, I break this down in a lot of detail of how do you define your process? What's your effort look like? All of that. But from a high level, if you maintain those 2 decisions over an extended period of time for as long as it takes, you can't fail. It's only a matter of time before you get there. And when you do get there, the timing is always perfect.
Wow. It's totally, you just totally shifting the way how you approach, right, the goals. Because I personally will kind of begin every year with a, goal list, and will just work hard to achieve those goals. And if I don't achieve at the end of the year those goals, then I will think that I failed. But the way how you describe it, you kind of focusing on the process and on the way, who are you becoming? It's totally different. And you mentioned many times about consistency. I feel like this is the most important and the main issue among human beings with the consistency. For example, a person will decide, okay, tomorrow I will begin a healthy diet and I will eat, and then 1 week passed and something happened and this person stopped doing it. And then this person will decide, okay, I failed. I will not come back to this idea. And I know that in the book, you have this idea of a faith, effort, feedback loop. Can you talk a little bit more about that, or kind of how you become consistent? Yeah.
So the 2 books that I'm best known for are The Miracle Morning and The Miracle Equation. And the reason I'm saying that, I know it's promoting my books, but that's not the point. The point is The Miracle Morning is a daily practice for personal development. And so it involves 6 it's the SAVERS, SAVERS, silence, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribing. So The Miracle Morning is a process for daily personal development. And the reason that I bring that into the conversation is that is crucial. That is the foundation. And for me, I heard a quote that led to this Miracle Morning thing. Jim Rohn said, your level of success will seldom exceed your level of personal development, because success is something that you create by the person that you become. So I really believe that by starting every day in a peak physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual state, doing these practices that calm your nervous system, lower your cortisol levels, lower your stress, get you focused on your highest goals and dreams, your ambitions. That miracle mantra is something I do during a Miracle Morning, right? I affirm that I am committed to giving it everything I have to achieve this result. No matter what, there's no other option, right? I affirm that every single morning. And so the point is, and then I visualize myself taking action that day in a peak state. So I create that emotional experience in my body before the day even starts. So I've already gone there, and it's that much easier throughout the day. So the point is that my Miracle Morning is I'm recommitting to all of the things that I set out to do. So that diet, that exercise routine, most of us don't do that. Most of us, we set a goal, we set an intention, we make a commitment, like I'm going to improve my diet or start exercising or whatever, and it's an isolated event. We do it once, we go to and then for the first few days I call it the infatuation period. We're infatuated with this new idea, we're motivated, we're excited, we're energized. As soon as the infatuation wears off, just like in a relationship, you can get bored, and then it's hard to muster up that motivation. The point of having a morning ritual like the Miracle Morning is you're recommitting every single day. Most people commit once and then never again. And then they just drift off into, I tried, right? And then eventually you do that so many times that you lose faith in yourself. And you mentioned the faith, effort, feedback loop. I'll bring that in now. So the miracle morning is your daily practice for personal development. That's the foundation for you to recommit to being the person that you need to be to follow through with everything you've committed to doing. And when you do it every single day, you become the person that can follow through. You're developing yourself into that person every day. Then the miracle equation. So if the miracle morning is your process for personal development, the miracle equation is your process for goal achievement. It's the inner world and the outer world, the maintaining unwavering faith. That's your inner world. And then the extraordinary effort is your outer world. That's the doing the thing each day. That's one thing at a time to move yourself forward. The faith, effort, feedback loop works like this. When you utilize the miracle morning, and in the morning you're establishing that unwavering faith over and over and over, you're reciting affirmations that remind you of your commitment, what you're committed to doing, why it's important to you, all of these things. Well, that fuels you to put forth the effort that day. And then when you go out and you do that one thing that moves you closer to your goal, you put forth the effort, that reinforces your faith that it's possible. Because now you're seeing progress. Now you're feeling driven. You're feeling worthy because you're actually doing the things that are moving you forward. So then the faith fuels the effort, but the effort fuels the faith. And then you have more faith, and then you have more effort. And so you have more faith in yourself because you see yourself doing something every day that moves you forward. And the beauty of this is it's taking goal achievement and goal setting, which can be overwhelming, and it's simplifying it to 2 decisions that you make every single day and the minimal amount of effort that becomes extraordinary only because it's done consistently for as long as it takes. And most people that are very successful, they'll tell you it wasn't glamorous. It took me a long time. I was doing stuff nobody was seeing. There was no immediate reward. I was just doing one thing every day, getting a little better every day, going a little further every day. And eventually I finally arrived. I finally achieved that success, but it happened one day at a time, one activity at a time.
Yes, I love it. I feel like it's one of the most important things. Everything that you said is just amazing and, like mind-blowing. It's at the same time, it's very simple, but, the way how you put it all together, it creates, this shift in the mindset. So thank you so much. And before I will ask the last question, where people can buy your book and find you?
Yeah, Amazon.com is the best place to get The Miracle Morning. The Miracle Equation is sold everywhere, but The Miracle Morning is on Amazon. You can get it on Audible, Kindle, whatever format you like best. And the best place to find all other things is miraclemorning.com. And miraclemorning.com, there's a place where you can join the community. You can download a bunch of free stuff to get started, kind of a fast start kit. And you can find a bunch of bonus resources. So there's all sorts of stuff at miraclemorning.com. But the best place to start the journey for all of my books is on Amazon.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your generosity. I truly enjoyed, that part on your website where you can start from these free training kind of, for Miracle Morning. So it's great. And my last question is, what is your big vision of your life? What is your kind of impact that you want to create?
Yeah, thank you for that. It started out change 1 million lives one morning at a time. And I didn't even know if that was possible. It was just this big goal, a big dream, right? Once that actually happened, then I had to rethink, what do I want to do? And I really realized that if the Miracle Morning could change 1 million people's lives, most of which were not morning people, I thought it could change the world if I get it to the world, right? If I get it to enough people. And so now the mission is to elevate the consciousness of humanity one morning at a time, one person at a time. And so the measurable way is I'm trying to reach 1 billion people with the Miracle Morning. And I feel like if I reach 1 billion people with the Miracle Morning and they all tell their friends, right? Then we can truly elevate the consciousness of humanity, which, I feel like now more than ever, we need some elevation in our consciousness for sure.
Right. I feel like you're doing great with your mission. I'm originally from Russia, and your book, Miracle Morning, was, boom at some point, and everyone was following Miracle Morning. So I'm Thank you so much. I will say it again, you're an amazing human being, and please continue to do what you're doing and transforming people's mornings and lives.
Thank you, Alexandra. I really appreciate you having me on today.
Thank you so much. And